it's time to quilt up the first quilt, but first I need to make a backing. For that, I'll be using this print from To The Pink from the Curiouser and Curiouser line, and it has teacups that are stripes and dots. Now, because most quilting cotton is only about 42 inches wide from selvage to selvage, more often than not, you are going to have to piece your fabric together to make your backing. My quilt top is about 58 inches wide, and it's a square, so it's 58 by 58. So what I need to do is make a square of fabric that's going to be large enough. I want about 4 inches on all sides, since I will be loading this onto the long arm. If you're quilting it on your domestic machine, you really only need like 2 inches on every side. So I'm going to cut 2 lengths of fabric along the selvage that are 66 inches, and then I'm going to join them along one of these selvage edges. I am going to join them together with about a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and then I'm going to press that open. But having a 1/2 inch seam allowance is going to give a little bit of extra stability. Since this is on the back of the quilt, it's going to see more wear and tear than the front of the quilt. To make sure they're even, I can just use the first piece to measure out the second piece. And now I typically do not worry about lining up the print on the back of a quilt, since it is the back side of the quilt. Because I'm working with a directional print, I do want to make sure that all of the teacups are at least facing the same direction. Typically, I sew my backing with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, but since I am leaving the selvage on this one, because it does lay nice and flat, I'm just going to sew about 1/4 of an inch from this white line where the print and the selvage meet, and then I will press that seam open. There we go. I have one piece of fabric that's about 66 inches by 80 inches, so it's plenty big enough for my quilt. So now I'm going to get this loaded up onto the long arm, pick a pattern, get it quilted.